We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. Civil rights activist Reverend Jesse Jackson has died at the age of 84. His family announcing the news overnight. More on his life and legacy right now.
Put your hands together for our leader, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Civil rights leader, politician, and community activist Jesse Louis Jackson was born October 8, 1941 in Greenville, South Carolina. He met Jacqueline Lavinia Brown. They got married in 1962 and together had 5 children. At that time, in the early 60s, the country was in the throes of the civil rights movement.
Will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood? I have a dream.
Jackson says he was so inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King, he went to work for him and was with King when he was assassinated in 1968.
I actually succeeded Dr. King after King's assassination in 1968 as the premier leader of the civil rights movement.
I never stopped serving.
In 1971, Jackson founded a group called People United to Save Humanity, or Operation Push. Jackson ran for the presidency in 1983, but lost the Democratic nomination to Walter Mondale. In a second try in '88, Jackson landed second place in the Democratic primaries, falling short to then Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis.
He played a significant role in the transition, to some extent, of the civil rights movement from protest to politics.
Around this time, the civil rights leader formed a group he named the Rainbow Coalition because it was made up of people from all races and ethnic backgrounds.
That is the unfinished business that I'm about, fighting for equal opportunity for all Americans and peace in the world.
But Jackson's reputation took a major hit in early 2001. A tabloid broke the news that the Reverend fathered a child out of wedlock with one of his aides, Karen Stanford. Some supporters were outraged, but several civil rights leaders spoke out in support of Jackson.
And Reverend Jackson will get up, brush himself off, and keep on marching. And we'll be marching right there with him. Congratulations.
Over the years, Jackson was recognized over and over again for his work on equal rights and efforts to help the less fortunate. He collected over 35 honorary degrees.
Reverend Jesse Jackson is just so special, not just to us, not just to our country, but to our world.
Supporters say in the last several decades, Jesse Jackson did more than anyone to move this country's civil rights agenda forward.
We now have the first African-American president. It would not have been possible if it were not for Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
I've sought to be a long-distance runner. I would like to be measured by my box score, not by the home run or the strikeout, but being a long-distance servant.
And Jackson's followers promised the movement will continue.
We are not afraid.
Mike Tobin, Fox News.
And Carly, I think for a lot of the younger generations, the impact and the ubiquitousness of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, I don't think is necessarily felt. But for somebody like me who grew up in the 80s, Jesse Jackson was everywhere. Obviously ran for president twice in the 80s. So anytime you run for the highest office in the land, you are going to get a lot of notoriety. But I would argue that in terms of when I think of the 80s, 2 people that stand out as being ever present in the 80s, Jesse Jackson and Donald Trump. And I don't think the connection between the 2 of them can be overstated. I am very curious to see what Donald Trump has to say online, in an interview, on tape, when he learns of this news and actually ends up talking about it. But here's an individual who had a controversial but definitely extremely varied career. Here's somebody who actually helped win the release of several detained and captured Americans around the world. In 1999, negotiated the release of 3 U.S. soldiers held in what was then Yugoslavia. But then, as you heard in Mike Tobin's report, there were the accusations of having a child out of wedlock. Controversial, noteworthy, and I understand also there's definite friction between the Obama camp and the Jesse Jackson camp, but I don't think we can look at Obama and say he would be there if not for the groundwork laid by Jesse Jackson.
And he's the ever-present figure, of course, in Chicago and Illinois. When I went to a baseball game in Chicago that the new Pope was speaking at. I interviewed his son and met Jesse Jackson, and at the time, this was last year, he was in a wheelchair but surrounded by his family. So it's, as we've been reflecting on his life and passing, it was a family man, and his family will certainly be huddling around him and each other today while they mourn the loss of this civil rights leader, somebody who has had a great impact on the direction of the Democrat Party. In 1984, he ran, and also received pushback even from within his own party, saying that his ideas were too progressive at the time. But we are talking about him today as he has led a very consequential life. With that, let us bring in Kenneth Moales Jr., pastor and faith ambassador. Pastor, great to have you on the program on this historic morning, the passing of Jesse Jackson. I don't want to view our discussion through the lens of politics necessarily. I want to view it through the lens of faith. As a faith leader yourself, what did Jesse Jackson mean to you?
He represented a voice of young African Americans. You have to remember that his place on the team was as a coordinator for SNCC, which was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was able to bring in the college students and make them part of the rallies. He was able to bring a voice to Dr. King that said, hey, this movement is not just about African Americans, it's not just about civil rights, it's about the future. And his presence at the table, his presence in the meeting, all of that is what made the movement so powerful.
What will his legacy be?
His legacy will be one of keeping the hope alive. There is no President Obama without Reverend Jesse Jackson. He is the precursor. He is the one that spoke to the Democratic Party in 1984, which sets up the opportunity for him to run and be the first African-American candidate to run and have that presence as a Democratic vote. It's not a coincidence that we see the young senator from Chicago speaking to the Democratic Party, and then through his speech, elocutionary skills, and faith at that time, it's thrust him into the forefront of the movement. So his legacy would be that, and you can see it right now through those he's mentored, and they're all young people, whether it's James G. or Reverend Otis Moss III, one of great gentlemen there in Chicago, Illinois, Lamel McMorris, and even almost his spiritual son or person who's personally mentored, the Reverend Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant. His touch and legacy is a continuation through not just the Rainbow Coalition, but how he's informed and even empowered the next generation of leaders that would advocate for the marginalized and for those whose voice is not being heard.
Pastor, I want to go back to something, and you alluded to it in your last answer there. The generational differences between how people of my age, maybe your age, our age, view Jesse Jackson as kind of being that ubiquitous figure. I know older generations remember him at the hotel in Memphis when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. I believe we're seeing a picture of that precursor to that moment there on our screen right now. Can you explain a little bit more about the ever-present nature of Jesse Jackson throughout much of the early part of our lives, the 80s, the early 90s, and whether or not the younger generations understand how ubiquitous, to borrow a word that I used earlier, he really was in our news, in our pop culture, in our society?
Well, again, one of the largest public displays of African-American art, faith, civil rights, and even movement took place with the young people in Harlem. And I think it was documented. It's well over, he emceed the actual concert. I don't know the date or the time, but it's in the late, mid-60s. He has that presence, and you'll see him again in the 70s. You see him in the 80s, as you just mentioned, even having the international pull to get the soldiers out. He functioned and lived, as you would say, serendipitously through his speech. See, and that's the power of the word, even through Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Speech. Dr. Jesse Jackson had, I have a dream, rather, Reverend Jesse Jackson has that same attention, that same attraction, that same appeal that you can see him present within or with our artists or even our athletes, unlike that of Al Sharpton. There's certain voices who are ageless. They don't time out. They can identify. They are intergenerational, and he will be considered what we consider a Zakin man, a senior man that's given to counsel. Right. Often I hear Dr. Jamal Bryant and even Lamel McMorris reaching out to Dr. Jesse Jackson to find out, how do we do this? How do I pivot from here? What's our next movement? And although he's not in the forefront or walking, even as his health has declined over the last 3 or 4 years, he is still very much present, just like Andrew Young, through his mentoring, through his phone call.
Yes, a cause of death has not immediately been given, but his family says he died peacefully, surrounded by his loved ones. Civil rights leader Jesse Jackson has died at the age of 83. Pastor Kenneth Moales Jr., we thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you all. Have a blessed day.
You as well. All right, to another.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.